Before I show you this upcoming video, I want to make an apology to Geraldine. Now, in my last video, I promised I was going to make 2 epic videos showcasing everything great about Geraldine. And while, I mean, the last video wasn't great, but it really did showcase how amazing the nature around your little town is. For this part, I really up and failed. I tried my absolute best, but I made one very crucial error. Everything, well, about a third of the town is closed on a Tuesday. So about 3 of the things I wanted to show off, I just couldn't even get in there. And for that horrible transgression, I apologize. I can only do so much to make up for it. I've made a little something at the end of this video, which won't make up for anything at all. And the only other thing I can do is I promise that I will come back and I will right my wrongs and I will show off everything that I missed. That, all I can say is I am truly sorry, and I hope you enjoy the remainder of this short film. Kia ora again, everybody. I am here in Geraldine as I was last week. This time not to do the nature part of it, but to see what's around to do on a rainy day. So come on, we're gonna go explore lots of museums. Yeah, that's pretty much what they have here. I was so sad when I got here to find out that it was closed, but look at that. That is New Zealand native jandals. How cool is that? And look at that, look at all the ducks. Oh, but if you out there are the owner of this fine duck-themed establishment with old radios throughout it, please just know that I really, really want in. Let me in, please. I'm so hungry. Look at the piano. After I gained sustenance at a cafe full of bees, I headed on my way to Geraldine's Car Machinery Club. Imagine being a criminal. I've just been caught vandalizing and mugging and fighting, and you get put in the back of this. Doesn't feel right, to be honest. It's a bit too cute for a police car. With me being me, I started going around pestering the locals. Like, sorry ma'am, I didn't know you were knitting in the back there. A sock? A big pair of socks? Sorry ma'am. Sorry. Oh, you have some form of kidney problem, sir. You definitely have a kidney problem. But there were more important things to see other than just old cars. Tractors! One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. Can you tell which one of these things is not like the other? It's the plane. It's the plane. Above the tractors, more vintage machines lay in wait, as well as more locals to annoy. Why, hello there, sir. I'll have a... Ooh, I would like some Cadbury cocoa, please. Sir. Sir. Well, customer service hasn't improved much over the years. It's pretty much the exact same as it is now. Sir. I guess we still have that, it just looks different, but I have what I think looks exactly like that at home. You probably want to see a doctor about that. Looking good, girl? This shed alone was pretty much worth the price of admission. Heaps of tractors, cool. This upstairs area with old gadgets and cool tools, quirky. One lone airplane just hanging from the ceiling, okay. But it was time to look at something a little more manly. This is a cool kind of display. I guess these are the chainsaws not to get because they get stuck in wood very easily and for a very long time. Or that's just really supreme wood. Supreme wood. As you can probably tell, I'm not the biggest machine head, gear head, whatever you want to call it. I think it's gear head, petrol head, all those heads. I don't have a big head. I'm not a brainy person, but that doesn't mean this stuff isn't cool. And everything we had is built from this. Oh, and one other, probably the coolest thing about this particular museum, people are actually working here. This isn't just some flimsy museum of natural history or art. This is an actual working place. Yeah, there are people there, just over there, still in the museum grounds. Just, I think they're about to do some welding. It looked like I saw a welding mask. I think they're about to weld or something. Where do you get that in another museum? Miniature model room. That is definitely, for me, it's definitely a small model. Now, about this, because we as humans have continued to grow larger, well, most of us, we can no longer fit into these cars. This is all we had to make once upon a time. For a fully grown adult to be able to get around. Just took something this size with a very small engine, you can see in this one, and trains, much lighter. Way cheaper. And unfortunately, we got bigger. And we could no longer fit into the trains and the cars. Therefore, more material was needed. Fuel was needed. More powerful engines were needed, and everything got more expensive. Honestly, I kind of wish we're still in the days where I was riding one of these. Actually, that would be cool. Imagine driving a car like that, almost completely see-through. If the engine was in there, you'd be able to see everything moving. Everyone would be able to see what's happening underneath. With all the toys out of the way, I decided it was now time to get back to business. Saying things that made me look like a complete idiot. Just expired recently. Fire engine. That's pretty cool. Timaru Fire Brigade. Used in New Zealand. A fire pump. Horse-drawn, man-powered, for each water. Horse-drawn fire brigade. I didn't even think that was a thing. I knew fire engines would have been like this at one point and not the big red block that we're all used to, but I never imagined horse-drawn with pump You know, I don't know why, but in my head it went from a line of people with buckets of water to this with no in between. I know that makes me an absolute moron. I just never pictured it. I was never told about it. My schooling wasn't great. The poor horses. They would have had to really train horses to go towards a fire, because it would be their natural instinct to not go towards a fire. It was a $15 entry fee to get in here, but with all the cars, tractors, old-timey equipment, an actual shed going on, there was a lot to... Oh, and the tractors. How could I forget the tractor? Did I say tractors? Anyway, there was a lot to see and do. I think it was quite worth the money. You should definitely check this one out. But it was time to do something more cultural next. Alright, next I'm going to try the Susan Babcock Gallery. I don't know what's in here. This is going to be a surprise. I'm just seeing what's around at this point. It's an adventure. It's like I'm wandering or something. But it is an art gallery. John Babcock. Susan Babcock. Look at that. Different art styles already. Look at that. Oh. Look how I don't know, can you see that on the camera, but it still looks wet. It's not flat. That is a neat effect. I'd never think of doing that. I always thought it had to be flat and perfect, but oh, that's bumpy, that's texture. Can get a... You know, that's just a photograph. $1,800. $3,850. I never said that I understood art. Never say I understand it. Whoa! Look at that. No frame. So not only is it coming out, it's going out sideways. $22,500. Man looking with urn. Oh yes, there is a man, he is looking and he has an urn. Maybe we should have looked into lowering that GST on fruits and veg, because that apple is $250. I don't get it. People buy these things. There must be the 1 millionth person who's ever said that. Like, I don't get it. This, yeah, sure, I get that. You have that on your coffee table. Because it's all that's cute. You say this was $250. After that, it was time for me to go see the museum I've been looking forward to the most. But unfortunately, I'm an idiot. And now, I'm right outside a military museum. So we've done a museum as a museum of all cars and, it's closed. Of course it's closed. Closed Tuesday and Wednesday. Everything's closed on Tuesdays in here. Finally, it was time to hit the Geraldine Museum, which I did assume would be free, since most museums I've been to are, but this one did cost $5. But it did have some interesting things in it, and honestly one of the coolest stories I had ever heard. Goodbye, Alan. Goodbye. Meet you in heaven. Meet you in heaven. Charles Tripp shouted to his wife as she was swept down the river in a boat. I went alone down 3 rapids, traveling 4 miles. My fear of wild pigs was almost as bad as the terror of drowning, so I quickly climbed the tree and gradually took off my clothes, drying them one by one. in the bright sunshine, St. Ellen Tripp as she recounted her ordeal. So she fell overboard. He was like, "See you later, alligator," and she had none of that. I'm gonna live, and I'm gonna be try doing it. That's pretty cool. I love badass stories like that. Do I hit the... No. If I was any taller, I would have hit my head on that. See, we've evolved very well with technology since these days. We have, you can see that fire doesn't really do much. It's not doing any heat. Fires nowadays will quite easily heat up that and boil the water in it very quickly within 10 minutes. Here it would take years, and that's why they didn't live as long. They didn't have good fire. I'm so smart. The unique thing about small places like Geraldine is in these little museums where they have not a lot of space, they will dedicate an entire wall to the history of one shop, going back over 50 years. So we're thinking March 1969, that makes it older than Doctor Who. And the Doctor is at least 1,000 years old. This is a sign in New Zealand that tells you you're in a rural town, village, hamlet, whatever. A Hammer Hardware. I have not seen one of these since I was a high schooler. You know, pretty much if you're in a proper town in New Zealand with a population, you're going to have, just with a population, you're going to have a Mitre 10 or a Bunnings, if not both. If you're in a rural place, you'll have a Hammer Hardware. It's a rule of thumb, just in New Zealand. Half the things I wanted to do today are closed specifically on Tuesdays. You smile at me, you think I'm adorable. Still, I do think Geraldine is lovely. The township is mainly museum tourist focused, which might not be your cup of tea, and that's absolutely fine. And also the vintage car museum does cost $15. The museum costs another $5. The art show, the art gallery costs nothing unless you buy something, in which case there goes your livelihood, unless you make a lot of money. Other than that, it's cafes, but lovely cafes in town, with a couple of exceptions. Like, there's a million cafes and most of them look exactly the same. Here, one's a full-on bakery shop. One is a garden. One has a beehive. One is covered in ducks and radios. Anything that isn't quirky seems to fall apart. And that's cool. You could come to a very different, unique cafe for about every day for half a week, while you take your time enjoying the outdoor splendors, a lovely nature.
Geraldine, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take that dad. Geraldine, 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 please don't take him for your town plan. Nature is beyond compare, with serenity and mental care, with dense wood and leaves of emerald green. Your town is filled with history. Nothing about you is ever plain, and we cannot compete with you, Geraldine.